So welcome to My Fest 23. This is Brave Spaces, and today we're gonna be with Roz, and we're gonna have this session combining equity Unbound with the Brave Spaces. So over to you, Roz, because we at My Fest we're not usually doing official introductions, so it's all yours.
Welcome, everyone. Are you able to hear me now? I think I was muted. It automatically muted everybody. So today we have a combined session. We have two entities. We've got Brave Space, which is a monthly Brave space. People gather to experiment and to share our learning openly. And we have MyFest, which is a global network of people who believe in open learning. And we have created this session today where we are combining both together. So we are going to do some experimental learning. It's going to be fun. If you feel comfortable sharing your camera, please feel welcome to turn it on or off. So in MyFest, we have people from different parts of the world, and each person has their own situation and context. And some of them do not have the privilege of being visible. So we are respecting each person's individuality. So you have the choice to be participating or not. But you can participate visually, audio-wise, or typing in the chat box. So just to test it out, do you mind just typing something in the chat box so that we know you have access to it? We are now in Zoom. So click on the chat at the bottom and just type something in there so that we know that you're able to hear us and able to participate. Thank you very much. And next slide, please, Stefan. Today's session is going to be fun. Some of you may have experienced this method before. It's called dramaturgical method. What we're going to do is we're going to do play acting. And we're going to do it in 3 rounds. We're going to do this super fast so that we can do 3 rounds. The first round, we're going to have 3 actors. I will be one of them, and Valerie, wave Valerie, and Seth. So the 3 of us will be the first round, and we're going to demonstrate to you how to play the game. And then the second round, Stefan, wave. Stefan's going to then replace me, and then you guys are going to volunteer to replace Valerie and Seth. And then if we have time, the third round, all of us actors are going to be quiet and you guys are going to play and take over, and we're going to have a ball. All right, so that's how the game works. It's 3 rounds. We're play acting. But what are we acting? So let's go on to the next slide. The title of today's session is Picture Perfect and Doomsday. All right. And some of you may have heard this vocabulary before. What it means is if we have the lens of picture perfect, that means the world is wonderful. Everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be okay. We're so positive and we can find our solutions and we have our objectives and we're going to get our outcomes. Perfect. Doomsday is, oh my God, everything's going to go wrong. Anything that can go wrong is going to go wrong. And everything's going to go like, oh my God. So that's a different lens. Both lenses are not good because both lenses end in dead ends. If you only look at the positive in life, you're never going to see that there's a truck going to come and hit you, right? If you're only looking at the positive, you're not going to be prepared for anything bad. And in reverse, if you only look at the terrible, you do that, you're never going to be able to move forward. And so we don't want to go on doomsday either, okay? So that's the concept. So next slide is, you cannot change the world, but you can change the way you respond to it. So that's the only skill that you're going to need in this game. You are going to play the game where 2 people, one called Picture Perfect. And in the first round, that would be Mr. Seth Naidu. He's going to be Mr. Picture Perfect. He's going to be sticky, sweet, totally positive. Nothing can go wrong in his world. And Valerie is going to be Miss Doomsday, and everything is bad in that world. And in the first round, I'm the victim. I'm the one who's going to have my good angel and naughty angel on my shoulders. Okay. Second round is going to be Stefan. So we're going to demonstrate that. Next slide. And we're just going to go very fast into the slides. We have to cope with the inevitable failure. Next one, we're going to like look at ourselves in the eye, even though it's ugly. By the way, that's my eye and bad skin. Yeah, that's me. Next one, we have to have the will and determination. And the technique we're going to do is we're going to go up on the balcony. So I'll explain this slide a little bit longer. Up on the balcony means the crap that's happening in our life is down on the floor. And if you go up on the balcony, you're not in the mess. You're up there and you're looking down. So in this game, Seth, Picture Perfect, and Valerie, Doomsday, they're in the balcony. I'm the one down there and I have no clue what I'm doing. Okay. And so they're going to help me through this. They are modeling how to play the game. Next. Now, once you learn this game, then you can fly your own drone. You don't need the Doomsday person and you don't need the Picture Perfect person. So we're playing a game so that we learn the technique of how to go about unraveling this. And then in future, you can play it by yourself in your own head without other people helping you. Okay. So with that, we are going to start the first round. And I'm going to go into, hold on, give me a sec. I'm going to go into a different acting mode. So give me a sec. Valerie and Seth, you can start by saying whatever you want. And when I come back in my costume or whatever it is that I'm going to do, then you're going to start. Okay. And I have no clue what you're going to do to me. All right. All right, guys, have fun. I'll come back in like 20 seconds.
Wow. So
No problem, Rose. Whenever you come back, it's going to be all good. And it's all going to be fine and dandy. I think it's
but
going to be
you
great.
know something's, there's probably a tear or something. I hope she has a sewing kit or some pens or something.
Oh no.
She
Valerie,
probably didn't check ahead of time. I don't know. Maybe, we don't know. We'll have to see. I don't know. It's taken her an awful long time. So
it's all right.
I'm getting the feeling that, I don't know.
Rose is going to be
pretty
all
sure
good and
something
everything's going to
happened.
work.
I don't know.
I'm late. I'm late.
See, I told you
I'm sorry.
wasn't ready.
I'm late.
She wasn't ready.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh my God. I forgot. Hi. I didn't know the camera was on. Sorry. I just, yeah. Okay. Hi. I'm Rose.
Rose, what happened, Rose?
Nothing.
Didn't you?
See, I told you, Valerie,
we were
nothing's
here.
wrong.
I know,
Everything's...
but Seth, like she had to know we were going to be here. Didn't we like make plans or something? And it's kind of, irresponsible to not remember that people are waiting.
Yeah, but I think that, the worst things happen to all of us, but it's just a spirit of, dealing with it. Maybe a bug flew in her hair.
Wait. You guys are supposed to be here to help me, not argue. So I've got a problem. You're going to help me, right?
Well,
okay, Rose, what's your problem, Rose? We should help.
Yes.
Oh, I actually, I don't have a problem. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. I don't have everything's. I don't.
Something delayed you. Are you sure? Are you sure you don't want to tell us a little something? Are you sure that there wasn't something going on that you want to talk about?
Rose, I think it's perfectly fine to share with whatever you have on your mind. I'm sure that we're going to be able to deal with it. It's going to be all dandy. Be brave, Rose.
Personal. I'm not sure I can share. This is not appropriate. This is a workplace. I'm not sure I can share something personal.
Yeah, but Rose, that's the thing, work and life, you have to balance it. And you're the same person at work and at home, 24/7, 365.
But it's very personal. And if I tell you, then, it might make you feel uncomfortable.
It's okay, Rose. Be brave. Be brave. You can do it.
Okay. Like, what do you do when, like, you're trying to get ready to do like your work and you're getting somewhere on time, and then like a family member who is like very respectable and very established, but very old and like doesn't know like what day it is anymore today, like decides he wants to go and play football in another city and take the bus at 11 p.m. at night, and you're responsible. How do you handle that? It's tough.
Is this the first time? Is this the first time that this has happened?
It's getting there. It's getting there. It's getting there. And I don't. No, this is not appropriate. This is work. I'm not going to talk about my personal life at work.
But don't you think that you're like being at work, this is maybe other people are noticing that something's going on, and that
I
might
don't
be
think anyone
affecting,
notices,
that might be
right? Seth,
affecting
nobody
others?
notices that, no one. Oh, okay, no one notices, right? I'm professional looking, right? Nobody notices, right?
Yeah, no, Rose, you look perfectly fine, and I'm sure you're you have got things under control. You're fine. You got this. When whatever you're going through, you'll push through. I'm sure.
But why does it feel bad? If you're so sure, Seth, that everything is going to be fine, why do I feel bad? So you're lying to me. You've been lying to me, Seth.
So what do you feel bad about? What part feels bad?
I have this, and this to finish, and I'm doing the best that I can. But I don't have control over this, and this. And so this one fails, this one fails, this one fails, and then I cannot get my work done.
Rose, why don't you start off with the lowest hanging fruit? Start simple and then work your way up as you complete more.
Tell me how to do that, Seth. Tell me how to do that.
Well, pick the easiest task, for example.
You have all the answers.
Maybe you pick the easiest one, the simplest task, and then you get some dopamine along the way as you complete.
So you tell me how to pick the easiest one. If everything is difficult, you're unrealistic.
Yeah. I get it. It's easy to say, just do one, right? Yeah, that doesn't feel good either.
No, Rose, listen to me. Listen. Maybe break it down into smaller steps. If you break it down into smaller steps and split it up, then you'll be able to see what the next step.
She said she doesn't know where to start. How is she going to break it up into smaller steps? So, Can you identify have you identified, at least you kind of counted, like you kind of know what some of the things are. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Maybe Seth's onto something here. I'm not sure it's going to work, but we could dig into that a little bit. So can you identify what the items are that you're supposed to be doing?
What? No.
So what's that look like when you come into work each day? What do you do? You sit down at your desk and
well, it's working remotely nowadays. We work remotely nowadays, so I don't come into work. So it's a little bit difficult to.
But you have a workspace you come into, is what I'm saying. You're still coming into work. Your intention, you said, is to be doing work. So you're kind of limiting, I think, yourself thinking about a physical going to work, but mentally you're going to work. I think that's what I'm hearing you say.
Hold on a second, Valerie. Hold on a second. Can't you see it? The thing that's affecting Rose is something in her personal life, and it's affecting how she wants to approach her work. So, Rose, I think we have to start with the why. We have to start with what is actually wrong. Can you identify what is wrong?
What if I can't?
Well, what can you identify? You've identified a feeling that something's
panic.
Ooh, panic. Ooh. Do we make good decisions when we panic?
No.
No. Do we have any techniques we've ever learned that maybe help us calm the mind a little bit?
Well, you just did it, because I think I was like talking very loud in the beginning and fast, and now I'm a little bit quieter.
See, Rose, that's evidence that you're doing better already. You're starting to calm down. You're starting to be more rational. That's already a step in the right direction. So keep going.
you stuck again?
Yeah.
You know, yeah, getting stuck. Yeah, it's kind of what happens. But well, you got this far. Maybe there's something else. Maybe you could. Maybe now that you slowed down a little bit, I don't know. Can you go back and think about what it is you were hoping to do at work? In your mental work, not your physical location. Is there anything you were? Yeah, I don't know. I'm going back. Seth, wasn't she like pointing to like she's got this and this and this?
She was identifying so many things. Maybe we'll start with one of them.
I don't get it. I don't get it. She sort of knows.
I want to get it. I want to get it.
Okay, so pause, time out. All right, so that was the play part, the acting part. So I'll need to go find, where did I put my, anyway. Back to now, before we go on to round 2, let's unravel what happened there. Can we just describe what the temperature was like at the beginning? What was the dialogue like at the beginning? Was there any coherence at all? And what were the triggers that suddenly changed the temperature? And so I'll keep quiet and I'll have either Valerie or Seth start triggering the conversation here. And Stefan, you can very quickly step in too, because you're going next. No structure, very good. Yep. Yes, they're very overwhelming. What do you mean by cooking, Ole? Go ahead and unmute. I'm very curious what you mean by that.
You came in very, very flaming and cooking. So it was boiling hot.
Right. And a lot of times when we are in, a VUCA, the volatile, uncertain situation, our temperature is high, right? And what happens when our temperature is high is we infect everyone, right? If it's a real human, if Valerie and Seth were real humans instead of voices in our head, we will infect other people with whatever temperature that we have at that moment. But what did Valerie and Seth do to change that temperature, or to just get the person out of that mind frame? Till said, open, without focus, no borders, right? So all of this is what we observed happen. So now let's look at what were the techniques that Valerie and Seth did that maybe diverted the situation. Positivity by Seth. Tone of voice by Valerie. Oh, that's nice. That's a good one. And you're welcome to actually also verbalize if you don't want to type it as well. Focus, Stefan Horner. Very good. Yeah. Now imagine if you had to be Valerie and if you had to be Seth. What are the skills you need to have to be able to do that?
I think you need some empathy there.
Empathy, very good. That's a good one. You need empathy. You need to listen. That's right, Dennis. Very good. Anyone else? Yeah. So
try to respect the other situation is helping. So because the other is exaggerated and sending, and if you just try to calm her down, they will feel not respected because you are not, you don't see her situation.
So you acknowledge the situation, you be a part of the situation. Very good, very good. So that, how would I type that out? Could you just type that out? How would you describe that in words, in a written form? Thank you.
Okay.
So we are now at 23 minutes past the hour. I really want to make sure that you guys have a chance to play as well. So can we have 2 volunteers? And Stefan is going to take over my role, and you guys are going to practice some of these skills. How do you diffuse the situation when something is cooking, no structure, overwhelming? All right, who wants to be volunteers? Can we get people to type your name? You say I volunteer, and then we'll call on you. Whoever the first 2 people to type volunteer.
I can make it more enticing. I'm actually bringing a real life case.
Ole volunteered with or without the case.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, you want to give the case and then we'll see who else comes in?
Okay.
Stefan, what's the
I
case?
can give you the case. I'm going on vacation on Monday. I have a daughter. She's 18 years old. She informed me that she's not coming. She wants to go to Croatia with her friends. And it's not a joke. Rose knows my daughter. This is happening live now. And I'm in total VUCA. I have no idea how to react to this.
Meanwhile, you still have to work, right? You still
Yes.
have to get work
I
done.
have,
Okay,
I have
awesome.
actually critical meetings after this that I need to go to.
All right, so we've got Mario volunteering. Ole
would
and
like-
Mario, have at it. Who wants to be the good guy? Who wants to be the negative guy?
Negative.
There
Then
you
I'll
go.
be the good guy.
Awesome. Fantastic. That was fast. All right, Ole, you got to be the nice guy then. All right, have at it.
Sure.
So,
Let's go.
so let's reiterate. Actually, this is so no hidden agenda here. This is not created for practice, but this is really real. I got a WhatsApp like 3 hours ago from my daughter, and she said, "Yeah, well, you know, that vacation we're going on 2 weeks. I don't want to come." I said, "What?" He said, "Well, my friends are going to Croatia. They're taking a car and they have this really cheap place. It's only going to cost me 50 euros. I have my own money. I'm not coming."
Yeah, you know what always happens in Croatia when teenagers party there, right?
Oh my God.
Oh, you know how to play this, Mario. Good job.
I mean, if she was a boy, it would be safer. But you have a girl, right?
Oh, she's
my
going with
God.
her boyfriend.
Oh my God!
Yes,
it-
and
yeah.
5 other people.
Are you ready to be grandpa?
Stefan, this can also be a good sign that she's not joining you on this holiday. So how do you personally feel about that she doesn't want to join?
Well, to be honest, we've been expecting this to happen sooner or later, not this type of short notice, but we were kind of understanding that maybe 1 or 2 more years and our kids will probably prefer to do other stuff. But now I'm really, you know, angry because it's not planned, right? I invested money. I booked this apartment, and
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to pay for it regardless.
yeah. And you know what grandchildren cost, right?
Yeah.
So that will be the least problem that you have. Yeah.
Interesting, yeah.
Stefan, what is worrying you more, that she's not joining you and your family on the holiday, or that she's going with her boyfriend to Croatia, or that the financial part of it, and maybe a slight irresponsible decision on short notice that will cost you
Well,
money?
I think step 1 is definitely irresponsibility. I expect somebody at a certain age to be able to understand the consequence of what they do. And here I see a complete disregard in all the planning that I put in, right? And the effort that I put in. I'm actually taking time off. I'm paying a lot of money to go somewhere.
To spend with your family, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
the disregard towards family time is probably, for an 18-year-old, I can probably live with that.
Yeah.
But I think that's the first and foremost thing. The other part, the grandchildren, is actually something I didn't think about. I'm really scared now. Thank you, Mario.
Very welcome. Very welcome. Stefan, do you when you think back when you were 18 and went on holidays with your friends, I suppose, not with
I
your.
didn't. Yeah. No, that didn't happen. I was a boring guy.
Okay. But
I actually went with my parents.
not your daughter, right?
Yeah.
So she looks more like her mother, or?
Yeah.
So can your wife remember what she did when she was 18?
I have no idea. Actually, I haven't told my wife yet. I haven't had the
Okay.
time. And actually, I'm
Oh,
quite glad I haven't told her, because I don't want my wife to meet my daughter before I'm there to step in.
yeah.
Maybe that can also be a solution to your personal problem.
Yeah. So let them
Ooh.
talk
Just hand
without.
it over.
Yeah.
And maybe it
Let
solves
them fix
itself.
it.
Let them fix it.
Oh, that's cheap, isn't it?
Depends. You were always the boring guy, so.
Oh,
God, yeah. So what? And they go by car, you said, right?
yeah,
Okay, they have a decent car, right?
I
That
have
will
not.
bring them to Croatia without any problems.
All right, so I'm going to pause the game at the moment because Simon is asking what's this all about. So for those of you who just stepped in, we are in role play. This is dramaturgical method. The objective is we need to practice having conversations in our head so that we learn how to get out of our own VUCA, get out of our own panic mode, our own cooking, hot temper, overwhelm mode. And the way to practice it is to artificially have a devil's advocate, a doomsday person who's just going to keep poking you, and then another person who's going to just keep providing solutions. And so at the moment we're in round 2, Ole, you did a good job in saying, you know, you provide other solutions, and then Mario, you did a good job in poking at Stefan with difficult situations. We had round 1 where Valerie and Seth helped me. So now let's look at both cases. What are some of the techniques and the steps? So we know the big picture. We have one person who's going to just remind of all the bad things, and another person who's going to just keep suggesting solutions with whether those solutions are realistic or not, right? But now let's look at both case scenarios. We have Stefan, who was very open and honestly told you what his situation was like. And then when I was playing the role just now, I purposely didn't want to tell you any details, none at all. Both a common situation. Sometimes we just don't want to face it. And we can't even bring ourselves to share the information with someone else so that they can help us. And we can't even tell the details to ourselves, where Stefan just like totally shared it openly. Let's talk about that a little bit. When does the first example happen? Have you experienced that before, where you know you need help, you know you need to think this through, but you can't even bring yourself to verbalize it because it's so sensitive, and that by just sharing it, it might hurt another person's feelings? Like in my case, I can't bring myself to tell you some of those things because it's just going to hurt another person. Whereas Stefan is like, I'm going to tell you everything. So I open the floor. Anybody?
So I had similar situations quite often at home. For example, my wife complains about something and I try to give her solutions. And she doesn't want to have a solution in this situation. She wants to get the respect. She wants to be recognized, acknowledged for her things she's doing. She don't want to get a solution in this situation. And some person at that time mentioned, yeah, maybe you should think about talking about you should decide and think about talking about the topic, or just take a glass of red wine together to solve the problem. So to get the understanding first and not offering solutions, because if you tell the other then the solutions from the beginning, yeah, it seems that you don't recognize her. You just show up that you be more clever than the other, and that isn't true. You just stay outside the situation and tell the other, oh, I know what's going on and I can explain how to solve, and that's not feasible. That does not work for the other person.
I like what Ole said just now in the chat box too. You're right, Jürgen. Both of you are saying the same thing. Sometimes the solution is not important.
Yeah.
Sometimes the solution isn't the important thing, and that's the scary part. Can you imagine in a work situation and you go up to your boss and say the solution isn't important, making people feel good is important? But that's the reality, right? So how can we be brave enough to do that? And how do we package it in a way that it doesn't sound like that? How can we package it so that it doesn't sound like it's not important to find the solution, it's important to make the person feel better? How do we rephrase that in a way? What was done by Ole and Mario and Valerie and Seth just now? What are some of the techniques that they did just now? Or can other people come up with suggestions. How do we do that? Anybody?
They ask deeper questions. So dive into the what is the real problem. So for Stefan's example, so why does it bug you so much to get the real reason out of it? I think.
So I'm going to poke Stefan now. What did that do to you when they dug deeper? What is the impact to you?
Honestly, I think that was the key question for me, because I hadn't gotten to that point. I was like angry. And I was in doomsday, you know, all these things that are not working out now, and I have to reconsider. But understanding that it's actually it's like disrespect for the effort that her parents put in, for the planning, for the good intent, and not feeling valued at that attempt, right? So it's not being seen why we're doing this, and that is actually the key pain. And understanding that suddenly turns it into now it's a pragmatic thing, right? So I still need to address it in some form, but I can accept that for myself, that this is actually my challenge, but that's my challenge, not hers. And now
I'm reading when you were speaking, Stefan. Daniela responded. It sounds like it's a matter of first addressing the perception. Yeah. So psychological safety. I think that thank you, Danielle, that you have described what Stefan was, or you have labeled what Stefan had described just now. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
We have time to do another round. Who would like to be brave enough to play? We need 3 people. 1 person to give a scenario or not give a scenario and be totally like not able to talk about it. And then 2 people to pull it out, or somebody who really just throws out the problem, and 2 people to diffuse it. Who'd like to play? The first 3 people to type in there that they volunteer will play. Who'd like to volunteer? Be brave.
While they're typing, I was just going to make one quick observation too, having been sort of in the middle and an observer on this. The more amorphous the emotion that you're starting with, you notice Seth and I were like, we were kind of battling more because we didn't have a clear framework to even help her. We had no clear framework. Whereas Stefan's case, he had a nicely framed problem. He may not have understood all of the pieces of it yet, but that gave Ole and Jürgen a better opportunity. And you might have noticed that when Seth and I did it, Seth was going very far over to the really, it's okay. And I was going way far over to the negative. Whereas in the second scenario, the both of them were being a lot more rational, because they were closer to that. There was a more defined thing. And I think that's just something to be aware of when we kind of are in our heads, that sometimes if we realize we're ping-ponging like really back and forth, then sometimes that's the chance to kind of slow for a second and kind of have a quiet moment.
I really hope Mario was not being rational.
Well, no, but I mean, they were both giving solutions, whether they were the ones you wanted to hear or helpful. But they homed in more quickly on. So I just want people that it's okay. Sometimes you are going to have that sort of just bouncing around and everything's going to be fine, and kind of a little bit of denial going on, and the other side being a little more, you probably will notice a little more extreme in your reaction. So I hope I gave time for some people to volunteer, but I also just wanted,
if you don't want to volunteer your own story, you can volunteer so that we continue Stefan's story or mine. So if you don't want to share your own story, that's okay. The objective of today is to practice the skills. So if you don't want to talk about your own crazy story, I think Stefan and I agree. We're okay to continue with our crazy stories. But 2 people or 3 people, or who else would like to play?
One solution I can, or one situation I can suggest, since I don't know, I'm assuming we're all educators, but it's when you're an instructional designer, some issues you can come across are, I don't know, I don't know if you guys want to choose one of these situations, but one is where you as an instructional designer have a view on doing things, and other instructional designers who might you know, they're hired as instructional designers, but they don't have a lot of experience. They might view things differently, or a problem is it's your subject matter expert and they're just not cooperating. The subject matter expert isn't providing you content and cooperating the way they need to so that you can get the course developed.
Okay, so Danielle, we have a very wide mix of people here because we are combining MyFest with BraveSpace, and we have everything from engineers to finance people to instructional designers to I don't know what we've got, operations people, we've got all kinds of different industry people. But I think I'm going to try and rephrase what you said. When you are faced with a situation that your job description is focused on one thing, but then the problems occur from another perspective, how do we deal with that? Is that a close enough general description of that? I think that's a very good point to make. Would there be any? Yep.
It's just these troubles are normal troubles in an instructional designer's job. Right.
And we do have a few here. I am one too, and Valerie is as well, and so Stefan. So is there, are you asking to see if we can play that scenario? Is that what you're saying, Danielle?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I was prompted to ask something like that. And for people here who are not educators, that means by definition, you would be subject matter experts because you are the expert in your subject. And you are exactly the type of people that instructional designers work with when they get content, whether they're in an educational institution or in your own industry. So you still are relevant to the situation.
Okay, so that's the problems that Danielle is posing here. Is there anybody who would like to play along with that and see whether we can unravel that? And Stefan, Valerie, Seth, you guys can play too if you'd like to. Is there anybody else who'd like to play?
Yeah, I was going to ask Stefan if he wanted to be good guy, bad guy, since Seth and I have done it, but give him a break from being the target.
I'll take anything. I'm good.
Take your mind off of it for a minute.
I don't mind being the bad guy.
There you go. It's fun.
You're going to be the bad guy, Seth?
Oh yeah, I don't mind.
Okay. All right.
And everybody else, you can play along too in the chat box if you'd like, or just unmute and tag along. We don't have to have a threesome. We can have it multiple voices too. So have at it. Go for it.
Or should I start?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. That's also a very common issue. It's like, okay, now we want to solve it, but nobody moves. Everybody just keeps quiet. That's a very common thing that happens too.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just to set the context, I'm an instructional designer. But yeah, here talking to my two colleagues here, my issue is that I was meeting with a subject matter expert about a course, and he's providing me with information, but it's not enough. And when I look through it, when I look through some of the math calculations, since I have a science background, I can look through and I can see there's an issue with the wording in the how the solutions to the math are presented. And I also found some calculation errors. So I can bring that to him. But sometimes when I mention those issues, he responds saying, oh, well, I've been teaching this way for 20 years. I don't see the problem. And also when he gives me content, that's great. That's the minimum of what I need, but it's never like I need to go back and fill things out. You know, some things aren't always clear, so we need to reword them together. And some ideas are just not complete. There'll be half thoughts and I need things to be more explicit. So I've just listed a few problems. Can either of you give me feedback on any one of them?
Oh,
Man, this sounds like he isn't just taking you seriously. It sounds like he's, you're kind of being taken for a ride, and I'm not happy with this. This ain't right.
No,
this
Seth,
ain't professional.
Oh, Seth, I actually, this is an amazing opportunity. Maybe you can take the missing parts and actually turn that into content. So, you know, sometimes it's really interesting to have missing content and have the learning person actually realize it and you know, and fill it. So
yeah, but how do we turn to good content if we don't exactly know what we're going to do? What if it's inaccurate content and it's for the...
You know,
Oh,
if
I
people
gotta
want
jump in
to-
on this one.
Right.
I gotta jump in on this one. Here it is. You just pretend what he says is fantastic, and you just tell him, "Oh, that's awesome! Thank you. Oh, what you gave me is great. Whatever." And then you throw it back, and it's not great. And then you go, "Oh, but that's what you just gave me."
ah,
And what
Well,
about offering my suggestions for making things clearer when he, or correcting his errors that are clearly errors, they're objectively errors, and he feels, you know, defensive. Oh, I've been doing this for 20 years. Well, for 20 years, he didn't realize that something was wrong.
So it's as if his ego or his pride in a way is trying to get in the way of looking at it objectively, his experience, he's not being accountable for you know, his what he should be providing.
Danielle, have you made clear to him what you can do with this information?
Yes, I can help him to reword things to the extent that, you know, this is what he's got. So we've got, you know, like about 70% of the material we need. I can work on that to make it a bit clearer. But we don't have enough material to fill the goals. Although the suggestion from Stefan, I can work with that, because I can, if we don't get to fill all the missing content, we can take those gaps, the gaps that are there, and we can turn them into activities and have the students. There's an ethical issue, like you can't have the students building the course that they're paying to take, but there are things we can do to work with the students maybe to fill some of that material.
I think that's a real life reflection. I mean, looking at a lot of these people in this call are my colleagues. We work like that all the time, right? So a lot of us are engineers. We need to solve problems, and we're not giving all the details. So we need to figure out stuff. Sometimes on the way we invent stuff.
And talking about figuring out stuff, so I mean, Danielle, with that plan in mind, to, for example, like what you said, let the students kind of design their own course. I mean, what is the backup in case, you know, either it doesn't work out or it doesn't serve the intended outcome, or, you know, you get complaints from the parents or whoever that why are my kids paying for something that you should be designing? What happens then? What's the backup?
Sorry, I need to interrupt here. I think that is such an old school approach. That's like 1970. That kind of training, you go read a book, go buy the book, go read it yourself. That's the content. So I do believe if there's no intellectual challenge, actually to work through the learning process, then it's worthless. So please don't go there. I think you're on an awesome path.
There are lately, yeah, I don't know how much longer Roz wants to go on with the session, but I'll address this point, which is, yeah, lately there are situations where it's a matter of not feeding content to the students, but providing them with exercises where they're applying higher level thinking. So in the past, you know, I was even taking a third level organic chemistry course, and it was still the same old, oh, the teacher told me this is what the reaction is. I have to memorize it, and then I have to draw out the steps, and that's it. And there's no context. There's no, oh, you have this solvent, or you have this solvent, or you have this reactant, or you have this reactant. There's no choices. It's just memorization. So that was third year university, and I'm still memorizing. Whereas what could be done is actually thinking about the reaction. So I could have gone online and seen maybe how different industries use the same application, and then comment on the processes and analyze them. And so that's higher level thinking. So the content is not there in that situation. I, as a student, would be doing the research, and then hopefully the way these things are done, and I as an instructional designer would be guiding the process so that either way we're still attaining the same learning objective.
Thank you for sharing, Danielle. Now I'm going to have you guys step up on the balcony, step back a little bit, and the 4 cases, yeah? we have a situation at the beginning when I was on there, I did not reveal details. And so that's a different dynamic of response. Stefan gave a very defined situation, so it was easy to stay within the parameters. And then Danielle's situation here, it was a little bit different. It's very content specific, it's very subject matter specific, it's a particular area, and it's harder to look at the big picture. So it's easy to get into the little nitty-gritty details. So how do we balance that? How do we balance situations where we're so minutia detail, very specific, versus totally vague, like mine was totally vague, versus cut to the chase? And when you cut to the chase, there's a risk as well, Stefan, because then you're only looking at the holiday. You're not looking at what's the root cause of her wanting to just go be her own person and not be a part of the family anymore. So in that sense, I think, Stefan, yours and Danielle's are kind of similar because it's very specific, which is the opposite of overly vague, which is also a problem. So in this last 10 minutes, I'd like to throw this challenge. How do we deal with something that's overly specific that you end up doing this versus something that's overly vague and you end up doing this, not paying attention to it? Any thoughts on that? And I would like to challenge the people who are silent, not because I don't think you're listening, I think you are, but that's another example. When something is overly specific or overly vague, it's really hard to participate. You end up just listening. You end up just observing what other people are talking about. So I'm challenging you guys now. What is happening now in this session is exactly the situation that happens in our head a lot of times. Either something is overly specific that you end up just going down that path and it's like, I don't want to deal with it because it's too specific, or overly general, and in the end you cannot participate. So I challenge those of you who are silent in this session right now, and I challenge those of you who have talked a lot, how would you respond to that observation?
But Roz, isn't that the exact same as picture perfect in Doomsday? So none of both ways are the right ones. You have to consider both.
I love you, Mario. Wonderful. You just summarized the whole thing. We can stop the session now. Thank you. But anybody else? Thank you, Mario. He started the ball rolling. That is absolutely right.
Yeah, well, I was going to say my observation with Danielle's was the one suggestion that did not come out at all was to talk to someone else. That didn't come out at all. It was, I have this problem with this person, rather than maybe I can find an ally. Maybe I can find someone else who's worked with this person before, and maybe they have some ideas of how to break through some of that defensiveness. They've been teaching forever. They're going to be defensive because they're the expert, and anything that, you know, makes them feel like they're not the expert is gonna trigger them. They're gonna you know, react to it. So just thought that was an interesting observation. In Stefan's case, there was that suggestion: let your wife deal with it. when she hears about it, offload that problem to somebody else. So I noticed that sometimes when we get more specific, again, either extreme, that instinct to not ask anyone else, and whether that's just you need them to just let you bounce around a little bit like Rose was doing, just let her bounce around a little bit till she settles, or in Danielle's case where she's already so settled, she's like, this is my problem, this person is not doing what I need them to do. That's the opposite of and in both cases, like that instinct of, as Mario said, like whether it's the good, the bad, the whatever, but that openness and recognizing that maybe there's somebody else out there that we need to touch base with.
And to add on, Valerie, I think like it's also important to take a step back and accept the nature of the situation that we're in. Because if we're tunneling, if we're doing a tunnel vision and going too specific and we don't see anything, then we're in a sense we're also in denial. Same with looking at it from a too picture perfect scenario where it's not real. But when we take a step back and we actually, like having someone to bring in as well to hold ourselves accountable, then it is a useful tool that I could gather from this.
Yeah, I agree.
If
And
you are
sometimes
in
it's
this
just them
very
holding up a mirror, just so you can see what you're doing because you don't realize it. Yeah, sorry.
if you are in this very specific situation, taking a step back would exactly be this balcony view. So if the other accepts this stepping back and accepts to going on the balcony, you can just try to observe the situation from the outside together. But this means that you already have some communication line which you can follow along. It doesn't work if the others just refuses you were Roz at the beginning, you were just sending. If you are in this kind of situation, you can't step back. It takes some time till you get to the point where you are able to step back.
I like that. Yeah, just a thought. Danielle was really specific with her challenge, but maybe I'm wrong here. But Danielle, did you try to make it more simple when you were explaining it, because you knew there were people here who were not fully in the, you weren't. So
no, these are situations I've actually come across,
Right.
and this is pretty much how I would describe it to either an instructional designer or you.
Right. So, but what you did, what it did in my head was, if you're able to go on an abstraction level so everybody else understands it, you're already doing part of the work, right? Because you're removing yourself from the specifics and already describing what the actual problem is. So just, I mean, Roz, we use the term explain like I'm 5. If you're actually able to reduce it to reduce the problem to a simplicity that you can tell a 5-year-old, you've already done the heavy lifting. So you're already identified.
And I love the fact that you're now, you've just totally segue to the end closing point, is that we have heard voices from different fields, different professions, different scenarios, personal cases, professional cases, but we're talking about it in one topic.
Yeah.
So the unifying thing is not the content. The unifying thread in this session today is being able to look at one thing, whatever that content is, from multiple perspectives. And it doesn't matter whether you start from the specific, or you start from the generic, or you start from the obscure, or you start from any angle, but just by talking about it and purposely pushing yourself to go to the different extremes, perspectives, it brings you somewhere. And what each one of us gains from it is different. You make meaning out of a conversation based on your own situation. So for example, what Lisa gets out of it, or what Jürgen gets out of today, or Stefan or Sebastian, is going to be totally different than what Mario or Seth or Valerie gets out of it. Because when we hear something, we make meaning of it in our own context. So it doesn't matter what the process that you do with whomever, you just have to go through the process of calming down, bringing yourself from detail to generic, from generic to detail, either way, and you just ping pong into different parts. So thank you, Stefan, for segueing into that. We have 2 minutes left. Any burning things that anyone wants to say? I pass the baton to anyone. Here's the game that I always play. I will name the next person that I want to speak. If you don't want to speak, that's fine, but name the next person. I'm going to call on Yasser. Say something and then name another person.
All right. So I felt like this game was more reflective than I feel like if we, like, I would love to do it alone, even, without any conversation with anybody. I feel like I'll be more articulating, even if I'm not overwhelmed. But this might not be kind of related, because I'm a kind of a person who likes to jot down ideas on my own. I feel like this shouldn't be the case with everybody, but I felt like I'd be
But
more
yes, sir,
reflective
that's
on that.
absolutely valid. You can play this on your own too. Thank you. Name the next person.
Well, you can do that because I don't have the list in front of me, so
Oh, you can't see the names on the screen? Oh, sorry, that's right. Okay, so I will
I'll
call
delegate.
for you. Yeah,
But before
Simon, you
doing
go
the-
next.
I'm sorry, before you're doing that,
Yeah.
please remember to give us feedback before you leave this session. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. All right, Simon, you go next. You're muted. You are muted.
Is actually.
Okay,
it's-
now. No, can't
No
hear. Your
sound.
microphone isn't even on. Okay, Simon, you fix your microphone. I'll call somebody else.
Maybe your Teams call is still on. Check your
Oh,
Teams.
yeah, that's right. Sebastian, how about you? And then you name the next person.
It was interesting to hear the conversation. In this case, I didn't want to bring myself into the discussion, but it was really interesting. Thank you for the cases. Probably there are some parallels to personal experiences, and if not, they are probably coming. My son is not that old, so will be.
I promise it'll come.
So thank you very much for sharing this with us. Thank you. So I will name Lisa as next.
Yes. So for me, it was just a good repetition on to step back or to step on the balcony and to see. I found the example very, very good to say we have two dynamics, either dimensions, either it's too vague, too diffuse, or it's too specific, and then to take the step back. So I think this was very valuable. And I call next Ole.
Yeah, so it was fun as ever, challenging as ever. Rose, I really like your hair this way. Keep it like this. And Stefan, good luck. Many other parents have went before you.
Oh,
they
yeah.
all survived. We have also grown up from our younger years, and money is replaceable. Your daughter's love is not. So hang in there.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's a good one. That's a good one. Name somebody, Ole.
Sorry, Valerie.
All right. I just want to thank everybody. You all were stellar in hopping in there with suggestions. And I love the fact that each scenario, more people kind of joined in and participate. I thought that was so beautiful. So I just want to thank you all for letting me play today with all of you. And let's see, I will move it over to Stefan Horner.
Yeah. For me, it was some kind of abstract when you were starting with your role play. That's normally things I didn't like. Finally, I got in the idea what you're meaning and what's the target for it. Anyhow, I'm not that guy doing role plays, liking role plays. Got to know what's the purpose of it. Yeah, that's okay. That's good to think about. Just maybe in different situation, just step, as you said, on the balcony and try to understand the other perspective a bit better. Yeah, I think I'll need to settle a bit with that whole situation. And I would nominate Irene next.
I was hoping not to say anything. So the thing that impressed me most is that Valerie was saying the things that we always think when someone comes into a room and they are late. So that made me feel really good, because I think we always think that it's not okay to tell people that they should they should keep time, but then we never find out why they were late, So that for me touched me a lot. I think it was very special. Thank you so much. And thank you for organizing the session. So I'll pass it on to Danielle. Have you said anything, Danielle?
What I liked about this session is, you know how people say, oh, when you have a problem, just look at it from a different perspective. It's not always easy to do that because what perspective is there? This session provided ideas of different perspectives that you can take, and the role playing helped to embody what those perspectives would look like from real people. I don't know who hasn't spoken.
I can go. I actually, before I forget, I volunteer to go because I need to latch on to something that the other Stefan said. So one of the reasons why I actually came with a real life all out case is I hate role play too. I totally hate it. It's not my thing, but it is actually very useful. So doing it, turning it into a real thing, then it's not role play anymore, right? So that's my safe space. I don't have to pretend. I just take the real case. So that was one of the reasons I kind of edged towards, let's make this real.
And I'll just add that Stefan Harner, Stefan Schmidt had no choice. I forced him to be one of the role play, but that's part of the brave space, is that, like what Stefan said, when it's a task, it's a job, it's assigned to you, then you can't run away. And so sometimes you just have to have learning partners that you give permission to the other person to play that role, to be the instructional designer for you, to force you to get, and to force you to use that as a classroom assignment. But actually it's not a classroom assignment, it's your personal problem you're trying to solve.
Right. And I think the last thing I'd like to share, because that kind of explains everything that we're doing here. I recently explained to somebody what we're doing with Grit and Grace and Brave Space. I said, the world is becoming more and more complicated, and our approach is to gamify it. So every situation in life is a potential game. You can either win or you lose. So if you turn it into a situation that you decide, I'm going to learn now, you're gamifying your life, essentially. And that's just taking this one situation, saying, okay, I'm going to gamify this problem, which is what I did here. And I think this beautifully showcases our approach. And the session we had today is just this one small example. But if you continuously do this, then that's what our program does.
That's why it's called Brave Space.
Right.
Simon, have you spoken? Now can you speak?
No, I didn't. Could you hear me now? Because
yes, perfect.
Okay, then I will say something. I jumped in a little bit late. I hate role play as well, but it was nice to just listen. And I think everybody knows the situation that explaining others a problem and getting the moment where you feel, oh, I just gave the answer by myself. It was a little bit like that, right?
Right.
And I also figured out that both examples have something in common. I think if you step back on the balcony and you think about it, the issues, I think, Stefan, your root question is why am I worrying really about it? And Danielle, I think in your case is a little bit like, why am I afraid about this situation? Like, shall I address this customer with his failures or not, or how will he react? So it's all about human interaction and not really about the specific problem where you just get a solution from somebody. It's more about the empathy thing and getting value and shown from somebody and so on. So we are all humans. So that's my learning out of that again. Thanks. And bye-bye.
And I think Seth hasn't spoken, right?
Yeah, I have not. I think the two key learning takeaways for me. I think number one, it's really, really so important to actually pause and reflect before acting, because acting on autopilot mindlessly can just lead you down a rabbit hole that will take a lot of
very well, don't you?
A lot of firefighting to recover from. And it's a lot of wasted time, and it's a lot of wasted efforts. I'm speaking from first-hand experience. Rose knows all about this. And I think it's really important to really pause and reflect on what the scenario is and who is being impacted by it before really jumping the gun.
All right.
Well, we are on the hour. Some of you are in here for a 90-minute session. Some of you are in here for a 1-hour session. So for those who are here for a 1-hour session, thank you for attending. For those of you who who have set aside 90 minutes, I'm going to still be available to have this open discussion. Yasser, are you able to stay on? Otherwise, I don't mind just continuing on being the host if you have to leave after the hour.
No, that's fine. Would you like to stop the recording for a free discussion?
No, it's okay. I mean, I don't mind because I know Maha is unable to be here today. This is an open, yeah. So this is Brave Space. We are brave in our discussion. So if there's anybody who has burning questions or burning things to share, we're open here.
Just say bye to everyone. So I didn't mention during the round now, Roz, but I really, at the beginning, I was wondering what it is all about. And then I realized, okay, these kind of questions or situations happen all the day and all the time with more or less intensity. So, and I just want to share one of my favorite examples where I've totally failed in responding. So one of my colleagues at a former job was complaining, now I have to do my things, my little experiment. It was at the university time there. I have to do my experiment again and again. It doesn't work. And I tried to make a joke and said, oh, you just do it once, right? And then she tried to cry. She started to cry. She was really crying because I totally failed with my response. So you're every day you are confronted with such kind of situations that the others need respect and not advices. So this is, and I'm really happy that I'm in this course and can think on this again. Thank you.
To reassure you, that solution would have worked with me.
See you next time.
Bye-bye, Jürgen.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for showing up and helping and everything. Irene, I hope you enjoyed today as well.
Yeah. Yes. I talk too much, so I was trying to stay quiet a little bit. I always have
it's a little
stories.
bit different than the other sessions. Yeah, this is more like game.
Yes.
So.
Yes. This is nice. Yes. But I think I always like sharing my personal stories because I feel it's more personal when we share that way, and it also makes someone else feel that they can also open up. So thank you to Stefan for sharing a personal story.
Gladly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Danielle, I wasn't kidding when I gave that advice just now, because I worked as an instructional designer for like many years at the university, and I had so many elder professors who are like, young lady, I've been doing this longer than you've been alive, and I'm like, really, how old are you and how old am I? And it's like, okay, it turns out that we're like only 3 years apart. Sometimes they just have, so be brave. And so my suggestion to say, kind of be a little bit cynical and just say, oh, that's wonderful, even though the content they give you is not wonderful. Sometimes they just need that little bit of a hand holding and, lip service. I know that sounds bad, or in Asian culture, we say giving them face. To give them face.
As opposed to losing face,
Right, that's right. Yeah. So
one of the people who left, his comment was, it was a very good comment, saying that in both situations, in my situation, it was more of an issue of how to relate to the person, and I agree. And one of the things that I've seen is that instructional designers, whether we've been scientists or not, we tend to have a similar view on things, depending on, like, I've worked with instructional designers from all over the world, and generally we're on the same wavelength. We understand our language. But when we are working with the SME, often the SME comes from their perspective. So I've worked with engineers, I currently work with electricians, and they come from their perspective, which is not the same as an instructional designer. So they know their language in their field. They know that generally, if they say this kind of thing, the message kind of passes through. But in education, you need to be more explicit. And I think we have the tools as instructional designers to make things more explicit. So it's more what I see us as, you know, it being a relational issue. It's partly that we come from different professional, and so when we're together, I've got my over 20 years of experience in my field, also where people think I'm younger, and so maybe I only have 5 years experience. No, I don't. And then you have these other people with, you know, 20 or 30 years in
But
their
let me give you a parallel. The story that I did not reveal a lot was, you know, my elderly stepdad, he's 81 and he's in another planet. And so, you know, think about your you know, subject matter expert, your SME, right? And they're talking in a different language and you're talking in a different language, and you're saying, you know, they need to learn how to speak your language. But imagine in my situation, no, you know, you as an instructional designer, you need to understand their language.
Yeah, it's a matter
like
of
in my case, I need to speak 81-year-old. Like I need to get into his world, because if you don't get into his world, you lost it. Right?
Yeah, it is our role. It is on us to figure out what it is they want to say, because the project is education responsibility.
Yeah, so Stefan, that's the same solution then, you know, we got to talk 18-year-old. I got to talk 81-year-old.
That's what I was going to say, is in Danielle's situation, it's not so much a matter of speaking the professor's language, it's a matter of speaking the student's language.
Right.
It's about them. It's not about him. You're not producing content for him.
Yeah, so
he already knows it. He already knows it. He doesn't need to know.
The ultimate person who's benefiting is the students. And in Stefan's situation, I guess the ultimate people who are benefiting is both the child and the parents. So in my case, it's clear that it's the students that are the ultimate end user, but in Stefan's situation, it's every person in the family. So it's how to, I guess Stefan's situation might be more complex because there are more people's interests that need to be considered.
Well, there's more emotion in his as well. I mean, not that you don't care about your work, you clearly do, but you don't have an emotional attachment to each student or to that, you know, you have a reaction to the SME, but not necessarily, you know, the same. It's not a familial, you know, or Stefan's
and if
feelings.
some of the stakeholders are incapable of learning each other's language, like an 81-year-old will never be able to speak the logic of, like, you know, a 40, 50-year-old, right? And the 18-year-old, Stefan, has not developed enough to be able to speak a 50-year-old's knowledge language. Right. So the onus is, it's not equal. That's the point I'm trying to make. The meeting halfway is never halfway. You actually have to immerse yourself in the other, because there will be stakeholders who will never be able to speak a common language. And so that's the piece that I wanted to share, you know, like I came to the conclusion, I can never expect the 81-year-old to understand logic or whatever. We have to go into their world. So Stefan, you have to go into your daughter's world, because she's not yet able to go into yours.
I wonder, Stefan, if you've been able to step into your, like, you might, it's been 18 years. So I imagine there have been other situations in the past. Like, what enables you to get into her shoes and think like her?
Well, actually, I can think like her very quickly normally. But in this case, I failed because I didn't realize I was dealing with my issues, right? I mean, I just said, so understanding that my key problem is not what she's doing, but how I'm reacting to it. So having understood that now gives me an approach, at least. Right. So now I can still explain what the problem is and why it's not going to be working the way she thinks. Right. Because that is something that commitment means. Right. So she's committed to the family thing now. And there would have been ways to get out of it. And then we can talk about, maybe I can cut her a deal somehow. But for now, that's where I'm coming from. But now I have agency again, right? Before I didn't. Before I was just in the fields somewhere.
So I'm going to play the role of host again here. We've got another maybe 5 minutes left, or
actually I need to hop off. I have a business call I need to take.
All
So,
right. Well, for
guys,
those of you who can stay, thank you, Stefan. For those who
thank
can
you.
stay, what I'd like to point out is that how can we then apply this to make this session, the conference, MyFest, and also Brave Space as an entity, how can we then use it to improve and to generalize sounds terrible, but like, how do we take the learning from here and make other sessions be as vibrant and future sessions to maintain this level? So Irene, I know you're one of the people in MyFest, am I right? So what can you take away from this method of running the session? Can we highlight or bring up what are the positives in the way the session is run, the good things, so that we can actually try and repeat it or improve on it next time?
I think the role play is really a key thing. I do know that working in cross-cutting issues in Africa, we always try to say our stories in third party, so that we are not stigmatized, or we are not, we don't get into trouble. So I think that's also another way of bringing out the issues that are there that we can talk about, and also support people that might need that support. So that I think the role plays and at least having that kind of session in that kind of part in quite a number of sessions would make it really lively. So that I enjoyed. Thank you.
Yeah.
If I can just jump in, one thing I really missed in that session was the part of, having to go after each phase when timing out, to go to breakouts and reflect on what did we feel about that. And if we have another way to do it, maybe we could have like curated something on the Google Slides, because I felt like, okay, the role play was still good, and it made its purpose, sorry, and fine, I loved it, but I really missed reflecting. That's how I felt.
Yeah, the quiet time. If we see, because Yasser, I realized that some people signed up for 1 hour and some people signed up for 90 minutes.
So
like
are
I
you
said,
making
this is
it
a
that?
combination. There were two different groups of people and two different entities, MyFest and Brave Space. And so if we only have a 1 hour, it's a little tough to do breakout. And I would have loved to continue this to do breakout, because that would be the next level up, the reflection bit. But yes, I think we could email individually and see whether we can do this as a individual reflection extension. That I agree, that would be a picture perfect ending to it, the reflective piece.